Kill it! Kill it!
Oh my God!
Welcome, everybody, to episode 71 of 1 million of the Serial Chillers podcast. From the SUPRnetwork studio, I am here with Hella Greg in his mobile bunker across the internet somewhere far away, close, I don't know. I saw a trailer parked out front. Hella Greg, how goes it?
I'm doing well. What's going on?
Nothing, just chilling here, getting ready to record a podcast.
Cool. Let me know when it starts and I'll show up.
Cool. We're on right now.
Oh. Whoops.
I don't believe you. So I am here with two returning guests. Some of you love him, some of you hate him, but he's here to stay. Welcome, Paul.
Who doesn't like me?
Woo, Paul!
Besides Bigfoot, but he doesn't even count. Has he won anything?
You'd have to ask him. I don't keep
Bigfoot,
track
have you
of
won
any of that.
anything? Text me.
And also returning fan favorite. I need to get her a theme song. Paul, you deserve one too. I won't lie.
Cool, dude.
Welcome back, Mama Chey.
Hello, people.
Yes, Mama Chey in the house, being her own very natural self. You guys know how the show works. Let me explain it for anybody that doesn't. Each week I sit down with old friends, new friends, good friends, and bad friends to tell them the story of an infamous serial killer. Throughout the show, you guys can chime in on my story. And if you brought a story of your own that is true crime, dark, creepy, unsolved, or otherwise mysterious, please feel free to share it. I think Mama Chey brought a story tonight.
She did.
You. Lastly, if you have questions about questions, make sure to ask questions, because I cannot answer questions about questions if you never ask questions. Are there any questions?
No.
I reserve my questions for later.
Okay.
Then welcome to and let's play the Serial Chillers podcast. All right. Tonight's serial killer, I bet you Paul knows who he is.
I never.
I was kidding. Paul's not going to know who he is. Tell me, have you guys heard of Juan Corona?
I've heard of Corona, but not wine Corona.
It's a creator of Corona.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Dual purpose.
There you go.
Good.
Yep. So, question number one. In what year
Oh, shit.
is Juan Corona born?
Juan Corona was born.
Pretty timeless name. I don't think the name's going to give away a date on this one.
Cheater?
He's got his written down and turned in.
Okay.
All right, Shy says 1944. Paul said 1964. What a weird thing with the fours you guys got going on here. But Shy is going to get 250 points to start her off. Hey, we've got 14 questions tonight.
Should have cheated there, Paul.
Yeah, I really should have. I'll be better.
Hey, we're
I
just
won't
getting
cover my
started.
paper anymore.
Shy, you were pretty close. Juan Corona was born in 1934. We don't have an exact date. We just know it was 1934. Oh, Paul actually had 1934. Let me get... So in 1934, he was born in Atlan in the state of Jalisco, Mexico. So in 1944, when Juan was 10, his brother Natividad went to America when World War II strapped California of cheap labor. So he went in search of better work and found it. In 1950, when he was 16, he follows in the footsteps of his older brother, and he went with another older brother named Felix, and then went to California by slipping across the border from Atlan illegally. Question number 2. Upon first arriving, Juan specialized in the picking of 2 particular pieces of produce. Choose 2 of these. And I would like to point out that Juan was known for being if your quota was to get 6 boxes in a day, Juan was getting 12. He was a prolific picker of sorts.
He was an overproducer.
Yeah. Greg's on one tonight.
He is.
So, upon first arriving, I know you guys are writing down answers, but this one's multiple choice. Question number 2. Upon first arriving, Juan specialized in the picking of 2 particular pieces of produce. Choose 2 of these: carrots, potatoes, oranges, melons, celery, and lemons. Carrots, potatoes, oranges, melons, celery, or lemons. 2 of them. He was good at 2 of them and did them well.
You know, the 2 I would have guessed were nowhere to be found on that
Yeah,
list.
mine neither. I was ready to stab. Glad
Yeah.
I didn't.
All right, Shai says melons and oranges. Paul said
Potatoes and melons.
potatoes and melons. So you guys liked the idea that he killed some melon picking. And he did. So 250 points for both of you on that. But the second answer is carrots.
Also, how is
Carrots.
celery grown?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not the overproducer.
Ah,
So 250 points to each of you, giving Mama Chey 500, Paul 250. You guys doing pretty well so far. 2 of 14 questions down. Got a lot of questions early here for you guys.
Okay.
So Juan, like I said, prolific picker of carrots and melons in the Imperial Valley for 3 months before following the crops north to Sacramento. He would continue to do this for 3 years. In May of 1953, Corona moved to the Marysville, Yuba City area at the suggestion of Natividad and found work on a local ranch. He was first married to Gabriela Hermosia on October 24th, 1953 in Reno, Nevada, where they eloped. On December 23rd and 24th of 1955, question number 3, a natural disaster will affect Juan and a lot of people around him. What type? Is it A, a flood, B, a fire, C, an earthquake, or D, a rock slide? Shai says rock slide. Paul says fire. And it was neither. 0 points for
It was
anybody.
an earthquake.
It wasn't an earthquake either.
It was the other option.
The flood. Was it the flood?
It was a flood. It was the other option.
The one we can't
Biblical
remember.
times?
Yeah.
Who gets a flood nowadays?
So it's 1955. A storm
Who gets a
caused
flood in 1955?
storm caused rain for 2 weeks
Juan
straight.
Corona.
The rain.
The rain came, then the rocks fell.
Sorry.
And then the fire burned it all to the ground.
Yes, that's how it all works. No, so the rain swollen Yuba and Feather Rivers tore a 2,200-foot gap in the west levee near Shanghai Bend. 38 people drowned in the first rush of water, which flooded about 150 square miles. The flood had a strange effect on Juan. He believed that he had died in the flood, and everyone around him were ghosts. He was like living in a land of ghosts. He's having like these crazy delusions that the flood killed him. And
now, who's to say that those are delusions? Because sometimes I feel like that.
asking for a friend.
Yeah.
So in January,
For one of your friends, me.
yeah. So he, during the time where he thought he was living in the land of the dead or like a purgatory, he spent a lot of time reading the Bible. Like a lot of time, like all day, because he thought he was dead. So he thought he was in purgatory and that he still had access to a Bible, and that if he just kept reading, he was going to find some way in. I think that's
Gotta be a map in here somewhere. I know there is.
January 11th, 1956. He's now 22 years old. Natividad will file a petition in Yuba County Superior Court asking that his half-brother be committed to a mental hospital. Natividad was concerned about, obviously, his brother thinking he lived in the land of the dead. There were a lot of other red flags popping up. And essentially, you can't force somebody to go to a mental facility. It's not, you can't walk someone in and go, my wife's got hysteria. And it doesn't, it doesn't.
My question is, though, because he got committed to the mental hospital, was the mental hospital as committed to him? Or did they just let him fall by the wayside?
See what you did there. I
love
appreciate it.
I love it.
It's good. It's good, Greg. You're on one. Like I said, this guy's on a roll. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So he's filing a petition to get him put into the mental hospital because he knows he can't force him, and he knows that Juan is not down to go. So Natividad is seeing red flags that I don't think anybody else is. Let's get ahead of it now. Question number 4, how long would it take Natividad to convince them to take Juan in for an evaluation? This one is open. Closest to the answer gets 250 points. If you nail it, it's for 1,000 points. All right, Paul says 3.7 months. I appreciate precision. Shai says 10 months. Paul's going to get 250 points and
good
tie
job.
this
Good
bad
job.
boy up. No one will be so supportive of you beating
I was
going to
say,
Shai.
I've never been supported in winning. Not that I'm winning, but in scoring points. And it feels good.
I've lost so many. I welcome.
That's what Mama Shies are for.
I want to hate her because she's my opposition, but I can't now. I hope you win.
I hope you win, Paul.
This is fucking heartwarming, but let's move on. The 3.7 months wasn't even really close either, but it was closer because it only took 6 days.
Oh, wow.
I almost
later.
put like in days. That just seemed too quick.
6 days. January 17th, 1956, at the age of 22, Juan was admitted to DeWitt State Hospital in Auburn, California, and diagnosed as schizophrenic. The exact diagnosis is schizophrenic reaction, the paranoid type. Cool. So,
Perfect.
So did the flood cause him to become schizophrenic?
No, I
It was
think
the fire.
I
He
think
was,
it-
and the rocks.
I think the flood was just like
Brought it out?
Yeah,
Okay.
like call it a straw that broke the camel's
Okay.
back, perhaps. And I don't even know that he could have been very sick before that, but everything was fairly normal, and he had a routine. And when a flood hit, he's just like, "Everybody's dead, man. What do we do?" Like, I don't know. There's not a lot of detail. These earlier fuck faces don't have a lot about them. So, January 17th, he's admitted to DeWitt State Hospital in Auburn, California, and diagnosed as schizophrenic. Got that. January 18th, 1956, without anesthesia, they begin their first shock treatments and were administered. They were followed by many others. I started to really think about how fucking barbaric
Man,
that sounds.
That's got to suck.
Dude.
So from WebMD, it says ECT is one of the fastest ways to relieve symptoms of severely depressed or suicidal patients. It's also very effective for patients who suffer from mania or a number of other mental illnesses. ECT is generally used when severe depression is unresponsive to other forms of therapy. It's still used. It's very common for shock therapy to be used, and its
Stop
most
it.
common use. And this is like it's used a lot more in Europe. This isn't done in the States very much, but in Europe they totally still use ECT and like have this very high success rate of using it for severe depression.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen that in movies not work well.
It
And
has-
makes
it
them flip
actually-
a switch and kill more people.
Yeah.
Something like that.
When I was doing a bunch of reading about MK Ultra, they used that as part of their programming and deprogramming and reprogramming. They would hook people up to electronic shock therapy and hit them with 10 to 12 times the amount of electricity that they were supposed to, hoping to like scramble some stuff loose.
So I don't know. I thought that was very interesting that it's still
That is
very
crazy.
commonly
I did
used.
not
Maybe
know
not
that.
stateside, but definitely in a lot of very reputable places that very reputable doctors reside. Question number 5. How many ECT treatments did he receive during his stay?
How long was he there?
That is a question I will not answer.
But it's a great question.
It is
Isn't
a great
it?
That's what I was
question.
wondering.
Isn't it? Come on.
All right, let's see here. Let me double back.
Isn't it 6 days?
It was 6 days. No, 6 days to get him there.
Pay attention.
Oh,
Yeah. I actually don't have an exact timeline.
Okay.
Let's just say it was less than a year.
Okay.
It's for sure less than a year, judging by the next date I have. Shai says 121. Paul says 179. It's a lot of treatments.
It's an every other day thing.
I figured 3 times a week.
You're both very wrong.
It's like 12.
It's 22. It's 22. They gave him the 22, and after that, he started exhibiting normal behavior, and they considered him, quote, cured. Afterward, Corona was deported back to Mexico once more. So this is his second deportation. He then returned to the U.S. legally one more time with a green card. At this time, he stopped drinking, and aside from schizophrenic episodes and a reported violent temper, I like how it says besides that, right?
Besides.
That's normal.
Corona was regarded as a hard worker. It's not, no big deal. Have a fucking violent.
I mean, come on, be violent. and a
You're
drinker,
working hard while you do it.
Woohoo!
That's all I need. So in 1957, as he's going into town on this ranch, he starts seeing this woman at the store often, and he meets her, and her name is, I believe it's Mrs. Lillard. So he meets her at the snack bar of this like hardware store. I guess there's like a hot food area.
It's probably deep fried chimichangas.
Not that cute because
Sounds so good though.
because what he tells Miss Lillard is that he's sick in the head to call a doctor and then call the police. So that was the first time they met. So she starts to see him and she like understands that he's got an issue, but like sees him as pretty
She wants to
harmless.
help
Yeah,
him.
yeah. So he sees her throughout, and they don't talk a lot, but she sees him, and I think that's good enough for her. About a year later, he sees her again and decides they're going to have another conversation, and tells her that he's very troubled and still sick and thinks bad things. She didn't know what to do with this information other than to like help him, like in the small ways she thought, like, you know, like, I'll help him out to the car or whatever. It's kind of the end of her role in all of this, but I just thought it interesting that he like found this confidant that was like, I'm sick, and she had no idea what to do. It was 1958. It wasn't exactly like, all right, let me Google his symptoms and see what I
Didn't
can
he tell
come up
her
with.
to call the police and a hospital?
Yeah, but
That's
like,
what you do.
dude,
When somebody
do you
tells
do you
you-
take the advice of every like kind of weird, maybe homeless guy that
I mean,
walks up to
I've
you?
been alive for a while. And
Plan on being alive for a little while longer.
And in none of my days of life has anybody ever come up to me and be like, hey, I messed up. Call the cops and the hospital, please.
You live a sheltered life. That happened to me thrice last week.
Hey, family Guy's better.
Oh,
Get off our show.
Well, bye, guys.
so in 1958, he starts growing apart from Natividad. I wonder why. Natividad was really the only person trying to do any type of looking out for him at that point. So, you know, all of his episodes that were being kept in control by Natividad were no longer going to be doing so because, you know, he didn't have his balance there. Yeah, I mean, and Natividad might not have been an amazing of a guy either. We'll kind of find out later. So let's go to 1960. He's now 26 years old. It's going to mark the year of the birth of his oldest daughter, Martha, and a new marriage to Gloria Moreno. In 1965, he's 31 now. Gloria Corona came to Mrs. Lillard, remembered him from town. This is 7 years later, saying Juan is sick and needed help. There was nothing that either of them could do besides maybe convincing him to go back to the hospital, which he did not have a great time in the first go
Well,
around.
obviously not with all those
Yeah.
shots.
But it worked. It cured him.
Yeah,
I
but
mean-
I think for a while the talk that Miss Lillard gave him was enough because he secured a contract with Sullivan Ranch, which essentially gave him like the head ranch hand position, so he got to bring on the workers. He was the dude. He was running the ranch. So he went from this guy who was super fucking hardware. He's like it's a good old story, you know. He came here from Mexico. He worked his way
That's
up
the
the
American
ladder,
dream.
and he's the boss. Yeah, and now he's overcome his paranoid schizophrenia and alcoholism as well. So
they think.
yeah, I mean he's doing the damn thing for now.
He's a real success story.
For now. So, in 1966, that's when he obtained the contract. Yep. Summer of 69. It was summer of 69. No, not too much. A man named Riley Smith was sent by a credit firm to make sure that Mr. Corona and the ranch he ran was using the funds that the credit firm had lent them appropriately. Juan, quote, roughed up Riley Smith after he was sent to inspect the vehicles. He's just checking out the trucks, making sure that they purchased all the trucks that they actually said they did, all the shit, whatever. And I guess he's there asking like the boilerplate questions. All right, Mr. Corona, blah, 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 is this and this. And, you know, Juan Corona didn't like one of the questions, so he beat the shit out of the guy. This guy who like came out, who's like a third party assessor for this fucking credit firm that lent him money. So
Did he beat the shit out of him though? Because when you say roughed up, I think maybe he just like checked
Pushed
him up
him
against
down
his
and
own
kicked him
car
in the
and,
stomach.
this was
kind of collared him and shook him around a little bit.
it was Juan Corona's defense to it was that he, quote, roughed him up.
I believe him. Guys, seems like an outstanding
Yes,
citizen.
Yeah.
I mean,
But the dude had a couple black eyes. He didn't like break any bones or anything, but like he
tripped into some doorknobs.
Yes, this
roughed
dude
him
with a
up.
couple black eyes was essentially like, yo, Juan Corona fucking punched my lights out. And Juan Corona was like, hey, I roughed him up a little. Like, that, come on.
He's making the rest up.
Yeah. So, yeah. We're starting to kind of see those violent outbursts come back. It's a few years later, but he's falling into his normal ways. So, in the fall of '69, Corona is going to provide a crew to pick olives on the Johnson Ranch, which is located adjacent to the slough, where some bodies are going to be motherfucking found, y'all. Ooh. Let's take a break right here.
Okay.
Going to come back with a story from Mama Chey.
Sounds good.
I'm excited about the story.
I know.
I'm a really good storyteller myself.
Are you?
Yeah.
I suck at telling stories.
Mine don't make it on the show, do they, Greg? It's for the best.
Not so far. All right, come back or I'll kill you. All right, we've got 2 new Patreon patrons. I'd like to give a shout out to Diana Libman and Samantha Templeton. Thank you guys so much for giving. Everybody else who would like to do so, patreon.com/Serial Chillers Podcast. Thank you. Okay, so, yeah, we're back. Holy shit. Mama Chey brought a story, everybody, so we won't get too much further into Juan Corona. We're going to put it on pause. Some bodies are going to start turning up. So before we get there, Mama Chey, show me what you got.
Okay, this is from my hometown. Well, not town, but state. Grew up in Vegas. So this one comes from the Nevada-California border, the Prima Donna. It was just after midnight, Sunday, May 25th, 1997. Leroy Iverson stopped at the Nevada-California border at the Prima Donna Hotel and Casino to gamble. Sounds like fun. Well, Leroy left his 7-year-old daughter, Charisse, in the care of her 14-year-old brother at the arcade. At 1:33 a.m., hotel security officials noticed that Charisse was unattended, and they had paged someone to come and get her. They released her to her 14-year-old brother. Her brother then left her by herself again. According to casino officials viewing surveillance tape, she played in the arcade alone while her father was on the upstairs casino gambling and drinking. In the early morning hours, Charisse had been taken to her father when she was found alone again. 18-year-old Jeremy Strohmeyer, a senior in high school, and a friend had come to the casino with his father on the way home to Long Beach.
That's the place.
Yeah, Long Beach. Around 3:30, Jeremy began making playful contact with Charisse, who was still alone in the arcade.
And 7, right?
She's 7.
Yeah.
By herself in an arcade.
Not
I don't.
that-
And you know what? The story never says anything else about her brother, except that one time that he picked her up. So, don't know where brother is.
That's what I was going to ask, too, is where the fuck, what does he have to do in a casino at 14?
Well, yeah. And how do you release someone to a 14-year-old?
Also, the last time I was in Vegas, I got carded. Like, just walking around, like, near a machine with someone who's playing, like, oh, I just need to check your ID. She's like, I do not look near 21, I don't believe. So I can't imagine and it was 97. I can't imagine a 14-year-old.
Yeah, well, I know when all this was.
I've been escorted out of a casino
Yes.
for underage drinking and gambling, and
There you go. When
Yeah,
all this was
they
done,
take
the
it serious.
casino did say they felt sort of at fault because they shouldn't have let it happen. But they didn't have rules about, kids alone, and it's just
There
expected.
wasn't a precedent. What are they going to oh, just come sit in this office till your dad's done.
Exactly,
And then what, they have to do that
exactly.
for every kid that comes in?
Exactly, yeah. So at 3:40 a.m. on Sunday, Charisse went into the women's restroom, where Jeremy followed her. While in the restroom, the two began throwing wet paper towels at each other, and then he proceeded to rape her and kill her.
Took a turn.
Yes.
That escalated very quickly.
It did. It really did.
Paper
So, but I think he had the intentions the whole time. So 25 minutes later, per their surveillance videos, at 4:13 a.m., Jeremy was seen leaving the women's restroom. At 4:58, nearly 5 hours after being left at the arcade alone, her father couldn't find her. So he asked a female hotel employee, hey, can you go check in the bathroom, see if my daughter's in there?
Oh, that chick is scarred for life.
The video shows the horrific employee grabbing her father and dragging him into the bathroom. And, he finds his daughter dead. But 3 days later, Jeremy was taken into custody. 2 of his classmates had identified him after seeing him on the hotel security footage on the local news.
What's fucking crazy to me is this is just some kid who's they were probably coming from Vegas, heading back to Long Beach. Dad's like, man, listen, I got to take a shit. I want to play a little bit more before we cross over the state line, and I want to grab a fucking steak. We're stopping at the Prima Donna.
You guys hang out right
here. And the
here.
kid's motherfucker, all right, dude. I just want to get home. And then he just is like, oh, look at that 7-year-old. How did I... It's not like he was there by himself, stalking, It seems like such an impulse thing.
There was one part that I didn't put it in here because it just didn't really say a whole lot. But his friend that was there with him, they say he was standing outside the bathroom, but he was never charged with anything. So
He fucking knew.
yeah, it's just
shit.
Rape and murder isn't quiet.
no,
Yeah.
especially of a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
You guys have heard my 2 and 4-year-old in the background of this fucking podcast.
And they're just playing.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jeremy was charged with first-degree murder, first-degree kidnapping, sexual assault of a minor. When questioned by the police, he told them that he molested Charisse, then strangled her to stop her from screaming. Before he left the bathroom, Jeremy noticed that Charisse was still alive. He said, I twisted her head in an attempt to break her neck. And after hearing a loud popping sound, he moved her body into a sitting position on the toilet and put her feet in the bowl.
Why would you go so far to stage it like that?
I was just going to say, staging it seems like there might have been a desecration of a corpse charge added to it as well,
Probably so, but they didn't. But then it even takes a turn for the worse. I mean, not even that, here the 7-year-old innocent girl was killed. Of course, her piece of shit father, he's to blame. And of course, what stuns everyone was Charisse's father had total lack of emotion. That his daughter had been killed. Sources say her father demanded that the casino give him a 6-pack of beer, $100, pay for the girl's funeral, and fly the girl's mother to Vegas from Los Angeles and provide them with a hotel room.
He had it all planned out.
Yeah, it's like, okay, my daughter died, so y'all owe me
A 6-pack.
a 6-pack, $100.
Y'all owe me about $900 worth of shit.
Yeah, and that just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess being a mom.
Yeah. It's oddly coincidental that he seemed to have
A
and it
list
seems
of
like
demands.
That's not enough.
No, not at all.
No. I mean, he's not asking for, if I had a kid and that kid was killed in a casino,
Right.
and it was the casino's
Some type
fault.
of wrongful death suit is worth way more than $100 in a 6-pack.
Yeah.
Right, and what, $5,000 for a funeral and the $400 plane ticket.
Yeah. But I guess he knew he was a scumbag anyway, so.
Well, that just makes me think that maybe he already got paid elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So in September 1998, the trial was to begin with Jeremy, originally facing a possibility death sentence. Just hours before his trial was to start, his lawyer entered a plea bargain on his behalf, which they should have just killed the son of a bitch anyways. On September 8th, 1988, Jeremy pled guilty to first-degree murder, first-degree kidnapping, sexual assault on a minor, and bodily harm on a minor. On October 14th, 1998, why can't I say that? He was sentenced to 4 life terms, one for each crime he pled guilty to be served consecutively without the possibility of parole. And then, of course, once he goes to prison, he says he was high on alcohol and drugs and doesn't remember anything, that he was coerced into saying he was guilty. And
What a vague... I was high on alcohol and drugs. I
Yeah.
smoked that vodka so hard, man.
Sir, you were riding through Las Vegas with your friend and his dad.
yeah, and he did go up for parole, and he was denied. And he says that he wants a new trial because, he was coerced into saying this and that. He knew how the body was. So
Isn't there video surveillance?
yes.
Of him?
And that's it. Of him walking in the bathroom right behind her and then walking out 25 minutes later. And in that time, no one else had walked in the bathroom. Yeah, his friend
How do you
stood
find
out
a
the
bathroom
door.
like that in Las Vegas where nobody bothers you for 25 minutes? I can't get 5 minutes alone.
Well, I think at 2:00 in the morning.
Paul has a picture of me pooping in Las Vegas because he just went over the stall and snapped one. And
Like,
just
hey,
popped back down.
buddy. Advantages of being tall.
That's how little privacy you have. You can't even get a place where someone can't just be kind of tall and be like, "Yo, what up, dude? It's going down."
Like even in the hotel room, like the maids, like it feels like every 10 minutes. Just
Yeah.
Housekeeping. Okay. Great story. Let me give you. Do I have an applause on here right now?
She clapped for herself.
Here, I'll give you one of these.
Okay, I really shouldn't clap because it's a sad story.
Yeah, we're just gonna kind of, it's just our things.
we got this.
It
We're gonna
lifts the
use it.
spirits. Lift the spirits.
We got this. We're gonna use it. So yeah, good story. Good story. Thank you very much. I had never heard that. I feel like parts of me feel like it's one of the stories you told me growing up. Like one of your reasons I couldn't do shit, but it couldn't be because it was 97.
Yeah.
I've been a little older, but specifically I remember one about an apartment complex.
The little girl that ran in
Yeah.
front of her mom. Yeah.
I remember a story when I was probably 6. Every time I'd run ahead.
Don't you run ahead of me.
Because in Vegas, some kid ran.
It was a mom walking home from the grocery store with her 2 girls, and they lived in an apartment, and the one little sister ran ahead and 10 feet in front of the mom to get to the apartment first. And by the time the mom got there, someone had kidnapped the little girl, and they found her dead in the dumpster a couple hours later. Yeah, so
What?
if I can't see you, you're not, no. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember
My
we
mom
told
used to
that
set me
story
out
as a
front with
child.
sign that said free.
Oh my gosh.
These
So-
are all options for parenting techniques.
yeah. So this isn't a parenting podcast, but feel free to use any of our methods.
Helicopter parent. you
Yeah.
know.
So yes, Juan Corona. Yeah. So he's pretty. I mean, we haven't gotten anything very serious, obviously.
Not
but
Right.
yet.
I'm sitting here just waiting for a death.
Yeah, usually by now we've got a couple murders under our belt.
Here's the thing.
Cool, dude.
With Juan Corona, we don't have a lot of descriptions of death because we'll get to it a little bit. But essentially, some people we know about all of their crimes because they got arrested and they said, "Oh, you want to know how I did it? Well," and they say it all, maybe even more than they did. Juan Corona was not
Not forthcoming with
that.
Smart. See, that's a good murderer.
it. Yeah, if you're going to be a murderer,
was-
take your secrets with you.
Yeah.
February 25th, 1970, a man named Romero Raya was discovered in the restroom of Juan's brother Natividad Corona's cafe at 1 a.m. He had been hacked about the face and head with what looked like a machete. Natividad Corona called the police when he saw the man in the bathroom. Some believe that this attack was Juan Corona. He's hanging out in his brother's restaurant, saw somebody he wanted to attack, and went ahead and did so. But others say that it was Natividad himself, that he had a mental breakdown after this man rebuffed his sexual advances because Natividad was a homosexual man. In 1970, it's going to be a little
was
more
still
accepted a little later here, but not
yet.
Yeah, not even close yet, I don't think. At least he's in a place where it's going to be accepted first. So Natividad gets denied by this dude, I guess, earlier in the night. So there's speculation that both Natividad or Juan could have done this because both of them were in the restaurant at the time. The victim, Mr. Raya, would not see... sorry, I skipped a little part here. Initially, the victim said that he never saw who did it, and he did not press any types of charges initially. However, later, Romero Raya would sue Natividad for his responsibility. He believed that later, he remembered it was Natividad, and he sued him and won the case for $250,000. The victim, Mr. Raya, would not see a penny of it because Natividad would leave the country right after the judgment.
Smart. That's what I would do.
Yep. So, adding no help to the stories that may have been him with the attack, obviously. So he was saying it wasn't me. Like, you're suing me in the civil court over an attack I did, and essentially their defense to it was, or I guess their attack was like, even if it wasn't you, it happened in your restaurant. Like, you're
liable for it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the deal there. In 1970, Juan is going to be committed to the DeWitt State Hospital once more. This time he decided he was going to go. He would be released just a few days later after, I believe, a 72-hour mandatory hold. With little farm work available, Juan had, for the first time in his life, applied for welfare. Question number 6, he was denied the welfare. Why? Was it A, too many assets, B, his criminal and mental history, C, his legality to be in the country, or D, they gave no reason? Too many assets, criminal and mental history, legality of being in the country, they did not give a reason. Both Paul and Mama Chey say C, his legality to be in the country, but they're wrong. Save that high five. So yeah, they didn't, because he had too many assets.
Oh,
he had 2
man.
houses in his name, and he had nearly $100,000 in the bank.
Why does he need welfare if he's got $100,000?
Because there's no work. That's
got
the nest egg.
$100,000.
That's the nest egg.
So you don't put that in the bank, you bury it.
It's in the coffee cans in his backyard of his 2 houses.
Yeah. So May 20th, 1971, a rancher discovers an area where it's clear that something was recently buried. He wasn't thinking incredibly nefarious, because it's pretty often that people come out and dump on land like this and they bury it, dig a hole, throw your fucking trash in it, bury it up. So he calls out the police, because this is happening pretty often on properties in the area, and police, obviously a serious issue because the police just show up for it. Once they arrive, they quickly discover that the hole contained human remains. There you go.
It's a body, guys. We
Yeah,
got
I think
one.
so.
Yep,
I think so.
You're not going to hear a whole lot about murders, but we are going to hear a whole lot about discovery of bodies.
I like that.
Okay. So, yeah, we got a body. The body uncovered was found by Sheriff Steve Sizlove. The victim had been brutally stabbed and slashed to death.
Oh.
The victim was identified nearly immediately as Kenneth Whitaker. The reason he was so quickly identified was one of the sheriff's deputies recognized him as a local transient he had just stopped only a few days earlier.
Plus, he was wearing a T-shirt that said, "My name is Kenneth Whitaker."
Yes, exactly. So, over the next few days, 9 more bodies will be uncovered in the Louise orchard where the original body was found. Many of the bodies were discovered with their shirts pulled up over their face and arms and had no pants, or their pants were pulled down around their ankles or knees. In addition to that, many showed signs of sodomy being committed. They had also been slashed in the back of the head, much like Whitaker. On May 26, 1971, Judge Houck signed a warrant to search the bunkhouse at the Sullivan Ranch. So early in the morning hours of May 26, 1971, police entered Corona's Yuba City home with a search warrant and arrested him. So they start to ask, essentially, just feeling it out around, like, what are we just going to walk into the murderer 10 feet from the scene? And everybody's like, yeah, people have been going missing. And everybody's fucking seen him with Juan Corona. And they go down the line, they're like, yeah, I saw this guy 3 nights ago, because I think they asked him about Whitaker, and they're like, yeah, he was here 3 nights ago with Juan Corona. And so just every witness they go to is like, yeah.
So he wasn't really good about hiding who he was going to kill.
I think he didn't think that he was being so obvious, but if people go missing and you're the last one seen with all of them, yeah. So they get the search warrant based off of all of this, and some other kind of pretty obvious signs we'll kind of get to later.
Or it's all an elaborate setup.
Could be. We've all seen Making a Murderer.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I haven't seen part
So don't
2
talk.
yet.
Just kidding. I haven't either. So police entered his home in Yuba City with a search warrant and arrested him. Question number 8. They seized some evidence from this list of 6. Choose 4 pieces they left with. So that's right. There's going to be 6 items here. 4 of them are actual pieces of evidence left with from Juan Corona's home. We have a blood-stained tire iron, 2 blood-stained knives, a machete, a shovel, blood-stained clothes, and a pistol. Tire iron, knives, machete, shovel, blood-stained clothes, pistol. Pick 4 of those.
I feel like these are very obvious answers. So I only chose 3 obvious ones that are probably wrong, and then I went for a home run.
I mean, I don't think they could all be wrong. Just only 2 of them are wrong.
You'd be surprised.
You'd be surprised.
He guessed the same one 3 times.
Yeah. Okay. Paul says bloodstained knives, a shovel, bloodstained clothes, and a pistol.
Okay, I got all 3 of those, but I said a machete.
See, that's the obvious one because all the cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Okay.
went pistol.
So he did not have a shovel.
Oh.
How is he burying these bodies?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't.
got a
They didn't.
tractor.
They didn't find a shovel. So Shy, you'll get $750 on that. You got 3 of the 4.
Cool.
Paul has 1,000. Shy has 1,500. Plenty of way to go. We're gonna scratch this guy off here. Yes, they found bloodstained knives, a machete, a pistol, and bloodstained clothing. There was also a work ledger that contained 34 names and dates, including 7 of the known victims.
Convenient.
Yes, indeed. The ledger came to be referred to as the death list by the prosecution, who alleged it recorded the dates the men were murdered. The ledger was filled out in 3 distinct colors of ink, and Juan Corona had been supplying work orders to the ranchers where the victims were discovered. He housed a lot of the men that worked for him in a bunkhouse on the Sullivan Ranch, where most of the victims were discovered. Question number 9. Right here I have 7, so that's what's happening. Question number, what I've written down, they have 12 bodies. How many more will there be? They have uncovered 12, I believe 9 of which are at Sullivan Ranch, where Juan is running the show. How many more? 12 out of the ground. This amount more left. Shai says 9, giving him a total of 22, right? 21. Paul said 17. Shai went with the under. Paul goes with the over. It's 13, and Cheyenne gets 250 more points.
Here's the thing. If that's really a death list, then kill more people on the list.
Fair enough. Okay. Good advice.
Stop putting X's next to my name.
I have to put it there so I know what's happening. It's
I
under.
like the zeros feel way better.
It's under. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's too late.
I usually put slashes through my solo zeros anyway, so this time I just put an X through it.
Cool, dude.
So 13 more victims, guys. There's going to be a total of 25. At this time in 1971, he's going to be one of the most prolific serial killers in U.S. history. May 27th, 71, victims 13 through 23 are all uncovered about the property. About a week later, the last 2 victims were uncovered, and all the victims had been migrant workers who worked for or under Juan Corona during the stretch of like the last 6 months. So the last couple seasons, he had 25 men come through working for him that he would kill and put in the ground, mostly on the ranch that he worked at.
What happened to the other 9 on the list? Don't say they're alive.
The 7, the ones
They're
on the
dead.
death list?
They just weren't found.
No. That's the whole thing about the death list is that the 7 of the names on the list with dates and times they had already found. Of the initial 9, 7 of them from the death list were in the ground already. That was why it was such a huge thing.
I don't feel like that's a big enough ratio, though, to be a death list.
7 of the first 9. I think after the first 9, maybe he just goes berserker, and then they found his other sites,
Touche.
10 through 25. Who knows? That's just things no one does because, they have stages of decomposition that they find the bodies in, and they can kind of do their best based on forensic evidence. But other than that, Juan Corona says, I didn't do that. What are you talking about? And other than witnesses saying, yeah, I saw that guy in that truck, they have obviously evidence against him, but nobody was there and nobody saw it. Juan Corona fucking saw that shit, and he's not saying anything. And another thing, one of the pieces of evidence we didn't mention as the question was a pen they took for whatever reason, because it, I can't remember what reason they said they took it, but they just took the pen, or maybe it was near the ledger or something. And so this pen is like crazy rare. They only sold like a few hundred in the United States. It was like he got it from, he used to go to this store that was like ran by a guy from Mexico who got things imported from Mexico and like blah, 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 blah. He had these like, hey, I got these pens, you know, and the guy was like, man, these remind me of home. So he bought this like 3 ink pen. We all know that pen. Dropped down a little thing. I got blue, red, and black right here. So all of the inks from that pen also matched all of the inks in the death list. So this pen that very obviously belonged to him also was in his handwriting. And yeah, so holding it down. Question number this one. As with most killers, the media begins to call him by a nickname. What? Do they call him the ranch hand murderer?
Ooh, that's catchy.
I like
I
that.
like that too.
The machete killer?
Yeah.
It's very movie. They didn't make
Yeah.
a movie out of this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. The farm killer?
Nah.
Or they didn't give him a nickname.
Ooh.
Oh,
Ranch hand killer, machete, farm killer. No nickname.
I'm going A.
I like how she said it. And
Ranch hand killer for Shy. Paul says they didn't give him a fucking nickname. But they did. But it was not ranch hand killer.
Oh,
Figures.
you're wrong.
Because you guys both hated on the machete killer.
Oh, that was just too obvious.
Right.
Sometimes it's the obvious, you know what I'm saying?
No.
Obviously, a couple times tonight, Paul, you missed out on it. So,
If there's a machete and an answer from here on out, I'm picking machete.
Me too.
he
No,
gives
don't do that. Give me a shot.
Yes.
he
We'll take
gives
turns.
he's given the nickname the Machete Killer. June 13th of 71, he'll initially be provided a public defender named Roy Vandenheuvel. Juan
Like the
Corona initially and never liked Roy and did everything he could to come up with his own representation. In the meantime, Roy had got several psychiatrists to agree that Mr. Corona was insane and had planned on having him plead guilty by reason of insanity. At this time, a lawyer named Richard Hawk would meet with Juan Corona. Hawk became Corona's new attorney and earned himself the nickname El Gavilan, which means
The gavel.
the Hawk.
Damn it.
Yes. So, question number 10. Juan Corona could not afford the Hawk.
Where'd his $100,000 go?
Why was he representing him? Was it A, pro bono work? B, he was offered money by supporters of Juan Corona? C, he was offered the life story of Juan Corona? Or D, as a favor to a fellow attorney? Pro bono work, offered money by supporters of Corona, offered his life story, or a favor for a fellow attorney. Shai said, offered the exclusive rights to a life story. Paul said, a favor to a fellow attorney, quote unquote,
The
cartel.
Aw, shit.
That sounds so much better than anything else, right?
It does.
Don't worry, it's wrong. Tell him, Jesse.
It's wrong. So Shai scores 250 points.
I was right?
Because he was offered the exclusive rights to the life story. Yo, man, I don't have the money. You come represent me. You can have this story. Which is huge because if you're offered the exclusive rights, you waive lawyer...
Patient.
Confidentiality.
Yeah, exactly. It's gone because you need to put all that's part of the story. So he knew going in, like, this guy's going to fucking get me off. I know he can. You can have my life story, right? Like, you have the exclusive rights to my story. Help me, please. And of course, the Hawk's like, I got you, bro. I fucking got you. There's actually a clip, and I couldn't find a good enough quality one because it was 1971. But they're like, how confident are you? You're going to get him off, Mr. Hawk. And he's like, I'm standing here, aren't I? Like, I guarantee you tomorrow we're walking out of here free. Unless there's something that I've just drastically missed. I'm very confident that we're getting out of here.
The fact he killed 25 people.
No, they found more bodies. So my answer earlier
Is
was
right.
actually right.
Oh, shit. So, yes.
Plot twist.
The Hawk was attracted to the case despite Corona not having a lot of money. He was getting the exclusive life story. So under the agreement, Corona waived the attorney-client privilege. Shortly after taking over the defense, and even before seeing Corona's medical record and reading any of the reports, Hawk decided against using anything that Roy Van Heuvel had put out there, and he would not have Corona plead guilty by reason of insanity, and fired all of the psychiatrists from the defense's team.
Wow.
Sounds like this guy is he's like, all right, I get the life story, huh?
I'm doing it up.
Watch this. So, that's fucking crazy. On June 18th, Juan Corona began to suffer chest pains or buyer's remorse from his cell. He was rushed to Sutter General Hospital, and it was assumed that Corona had had a heart attack. On July 12th of 71, after 6 separate sessions during the preceding 12 days, Corona was indicted on 25 counts of first-degree murder. On August 7th of 71, Corona complained of chest pains again and was taken to the hospital and diagnosed with a coronary insufficiency. His heart muscles were not getting enough blood. Boo fucking who?
Let him die. Don't waste the money on him.
Let him get through his trial so he can know that he's a piece of shit. And then September 8th through October 1st of 1971, the Hawk went to court to seek a change of venue for Corona. The hearing for change of venue itself lasted 3 weeks. On April 13th, 1972, the Court of Appeals would question number this one, true or false, grant him the change of venue. Just a true or false for 250 points. Shy says true. Paul says false. Somebody's getting points.
It's not me.
It's not. Shy, 250 more points.
It's just too public.
Because the Court of Appeals granted Hawks writ of mandate that the trial be moved out of Sutter County because it is not possible for the defendant to receive a fair trial. Yeah,
I watch Law and Order a lot.
There you go.
I
You should start watching Law and Order if you want
I
to.
watch
Yeah.
Criminal Minds.
Forensic Files, too.
There you go. January of 1973. It took over a year after the murders were discovered for the case to be against Corona to come to trial. The California Supreme Court voided the death penalty in the state of California on February 18th of 1972, ruling it unconstitutional, cruel, and unusual. Therefore, it would not be a capital case for Juan Corona. Again, the Hawk succeeded in getting a change of venue from the Sutter County to Solano County. So, September 11th, 1972, always remember, the trial began at the courthouse of Fairfield, California, more than an hour from Yuba City. I feel like if you're going to change the venue, like I can't imagine like being wanted for 25 murders in Fresno, and they're like, fine, you can go to Visalia.
Yeah.
Whatever, though, I guess.
You're their problem now.
Yeah. So, jury selection took several weeks in the trial itself, another 3 months, though Corona denied culpability. He was not called to the stand to testify in his own defense, and no defense witnesses were called. The Hawk is holding it down. Huh? He's like,
Well, here's the thing.
Doctors, fired. Defense witnesses, no.
No, thank you.
How about Machete Killer? You want to get up there? No. Can you not call me that in court, by the way?
Here's the thing. They have to prove he did it.
Yep.
What do they have now? 25 bodies?
Yeah.
Is that really proof that he did it? Maybe he has like a really bad neighbor
Possibly.
who murdered everybody.
You're making a very good point that actually comes into play later. So.
Oh, wait. Go ahead.
Yeah, so no spoilers. Question number 12. He is up against 25 counts of first-degree murder. How many will he be found guilty? Question number whatever. Oh, I did.
You did it right.
Do that.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Because, the question about the nickname, I actually made up all those options on the fly because I had written the question, but I never highlighted it, so I lost it. Sorry, what was I asking? Oh, of the 25 counts, Paul says he gets charged with 23 of them. Shy says with 9. This time, Paul's scoring the points.
Ooh, come back.
I was going with the book.
Come back.
And close. You could have scored 1,000 if you had said all 25 because, yes, with the evidence at hand.
Oh,
There was
shit.
none.
They had bloody knives and bloody clothes and a machete and a pistol.
No, they didn't have a pistol
Nor a shovel.
nor a shovel. They had a pen
They had a pen.
with 3 inks.
3 different colors.
And 7 dudes' names in it who were also found dead.
Happenstance.
crazy random happenstance. So as we get through this, you're going to hear a little bit more of it.
Can I stab at the next question?
Okay, so he's going to be found of 25 counts of first-degree murder, all 25. The judge, Richard Patton, sentenced Corona to 25 terms of life imprisonment to run consecutively without the possibility of parole. Despite being sentenced to so many consecutive terms, the Department of Corrections said that Corona would be eligible for parole in 7 years, citing Section 669 of the Penal Code, which mandates that when a crime is punished by life imprisonment with or without the possibility of parole, then all other convictions shall be merged and run concurrently. Corona was first incarcerated in Vacaville's California Medical Facility, 9 miles or 14K from Fairfield, because the heart irregularities that he had experienced. On December 6th, 1973, he was stabbed several times in his cell because he bumped into a fellow inmate in a corridor and failed to say, "Excuse me." He would live this stabbing. Of the 5 men in question, including the one involved in the bumping incident, 1 identified as the man's sexual partner and 3 inmates identified as friends of the partner. All 4 were charged with assault with a deadly weapon inside the prison, and Juan Corona was transferred to the correctional training facility, Soledad, California. In early of January 1974, Corona's wife, Gloria, filed for divorce in Fairfield, citing irreconcilable differences.
I would too.
It was granted 6 months later on July 30th. Why it took so long?
Paperwork.
1973, Juan Corona is now 39, and The Hawk published the book on Corona called Burden of Proof. In this book, he states that the state pushed the burden of proof onto the defense instead of the prosecution, as it should be. It took him less than 1 year to get this book out, though. You see how this is working. He's like, I'm going to make my fucking money. But also,
Hit while the iron's hot.
you made a great point earlier.
Thank you.
They talk about, the Hawk talks about essentially how the state was mad shifty. Like, what the fuck? How did the burden of proof get pushed onto us? You guys have nothing. It's paper thin. They had some things. Not
25
really.
bodies.
Yeah. So many appeals took place, including one where he was attempting to get a new trial. Would he ever? Another true or false for you guys. True or false? Would he ever? Or just yes or no, I guess. Yes or no, would he ever get a new trial? Shai says nope. Paul says yes. Paul's on a roll. 250 more.
Comeback is complete.
Comeback
I'd
kid.
like to thank so many people.
I haven't even been keeping track, but I don't think that it is.
No, I lost by a lot.
Well, let's
No,
see here. Let's count them up here. There's 500. Here's
we
another
don't have
5
to.
with 1750. Shai's at 2,500. Paul is at 1,500. Not impossible.
Doing a good
Not
job.
impossible. There's 2 more questions, actually.
How? Your list
I know.
is done.
No, I know. I'm
thought
bad
it was
at this,
done.
man. I'm bad at this.
Ooh, I'm excited.
There's 2 more questions.
All right.
One of them I'll let you stab at if you like.
Sweet. How many am I
Very
down?
stabbable. 1,000.
Oh,
So
that's
not out
even
of
1,000.
it. Yeah. Yes, on May 18th, 1978, Corona's conviction was overturned by the California State of Appeals, granting a petition by defense attorney Terrence Hallinan, claiming Corona's original legal team had been incompetent. What the hawk?
No.
They had not put forward schizophrenia as a mitigating factor or pleaded the insanity defense. The new trial was ordered, and the second trial began February 22nd, 1982 in Hayward, California. Corona's new defense posited that the real murderer of the ranch workers was likely his brother, Natividad Corona, a known homosexual who was accused of attacking Romero Raya in his cafe in Marysville. And after losing the lawsuit, Raya had fled. Filed, Natividad fled to Mexico. So they're just saying, like, look, if he's going to attack this guy and dip, he probably for sure killed these other 25 guys. So this time around, the defense brings up more than 50 witnesses, and Corona himself is called in his own defense. He was asked only 2 questions through an interpreter, taking only 2 minutes. Quote, "Do you understand the state has accused you of killing 25 men?" "Yes," Corona answered. Quote, "Did you have anything to do with killing these men?" "No," Corona replied. Hallinan then turned Corona over to the prosecutor, Ronald Fahey, for cross-examination. They were not fucking ready for that. The prosecution is startled and asks for a brief recess to gather their wits and prepare some of the more than 630 exhibits for their cross-examination.
Did they expect him to?
They didn't expect him to go on the stand.
Oh, okay.
And if the defense puts him up there, prosecution has
Yeah,
gets a
the right
chance
to.
Yeah.
Okay, so they didn't expect he was. Okay, that's why they were. Okay.
Yeah, because I think what it is, and I could be wrong, but I think when you're a murderer, you're always on the witness list. But you don't have to go up there if you're on the witness list. They call the witnesses that are pertinent. But I think if you are the defendant in a murder trial, your name is just on that shit. And most times,
You're not
the
gonna go
murderer
up.
does not go up in defense of
Okay.
himself. So the prosecution was like, can we get a recess? We need to go over this. So there's 630 pieces of evidence in exhibit here. So, yeah.
It's a lot more than a shirt, a machete, a knife.
Well, that was the
Yes.
initial
ledger.
sweep that they took. That's what I'm saying.
I don't even feel like I have 634 things in my.
In my house.
So, yes, they take a break. They look at the more than 630 exhibits for the cross-examination. Fahey would question Corona about cars and trucks and vans that he drove while working at the ranch. He also lived at Sullivan Ranch, and it's also the place that they found multiple weapons that they believed were responsible in some of these murders. The new trial would last 7 months. Question number 13, what would be the new sentence? 25 to 50 years with the possibility of parole? 25 life sentences, no possibility, straight up again? 16 life sentences, or not guilty by reason of insanity? 25 to 50 years with parole, 25 life sentences, 16 life sentences, not guilty by reason of insanity.
What'd she say?
What'd you say?
Said he's not guilty. There's no proof.
There's no proof. Yeah.
So you guys both say
And
not
he's a
guilty
little
by
crazy.
reason of insanity? Corona was again convicted of the crimes on September 23rd, 1982, and returned to prison after the strategy failed to persuade the jury, which deliberated for 54 hours over a 2-week period. They couldn't make it happen. They just said, yeah, all 25. You did them. Afterward, the foreman told the press that the most incriminating piece of evidence against Corona was the work ledger, for which the labor contractor had no reasonable explanation, and the connection of the pin to the work ledger. He said the jury had dismissed the defense's contention that Natividad committed the murders, stating that the prosecution gave firm evidence that he wasn't even in Marysville enough to have committed the bulk of the killings that he. So
It's so crazy because I think he did it, but when you look at the burden of proof, the biggest thing they have, I don't know.
I must have not put it in here, and I totally meant to, but they also found like some receipts near where some of the bodies were buried that were Juan's, but the defense said, well, yeah, he worked on the fucking ranch. Of course, you might find some trash with his name on it. But they're like, no, it was kind of like buried in there. And then a couple of the bodies were found with like work slips signed by Juan as well. But that's also Juan being like, yeah, they worked for me. I would have signed those. So those were a couple things found in there that also possibly connect Juan to.
I'm just surprised he didn't get off with insanity with him being locked up.
Yeah. Well, I think the idea is that you look at the original evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I mean, he's where he deserves to be.
Yeah. So
That's if you think he did it.
I do
Right.
think he did it.
Oh.
Well-
I think he did it. I just think
in 1982 at 48, Juan Corona was involved in yet another prison fight. This time he received 32 razor cuts, and amongst the razor cuts, he lost his left eye. Slit. Oh. Yeah. Supposedly, other inmates attacked Corona for similar reasons to why he was stabbed before. He was he was a pretty proud man, so he shoulder checked you. He's not gonna be like, "Oh, my bad, dude." It was like, "Fuck
Get the
you."
fuck
you
out of
know?
my
Fuck
way.
But
you
I have a
looking at-
question.
Yes.
Day one of you being in jail, what's the first thing you're doing? Your answer is going to be create a shank. He's been stabbed slashed
Slashed.
twice.
Pretty good. Yeah. This is
Get a
32
shank.
razor cuts.
Yeah, get a shank.
Yeah,
Protect
and
yourself.
now he's got terrible depth perception, so who knows?
My first day, I'm going to find the biggest guy, and he's going to be my friend.
You're going to be in a women's prison.
Yeah,
Well-
you're going to a male prison?
I'm going to find the biggest bitch, and she's going to be my friend.
In the 1980s, prison guards referred to Corona as a loner who was never accepted by the other inmates. He spent a lot of his time in isolation, and although he bragged a lot, seemed to fear other inmates. Other inmates looked at Corona as if he were slime, according to one guard. He's going to apply for parole multiple times, as is his right. He is granted the hearings, but let's see. He's always denied parole, obviously, up to this point. He has never made any type of admission, always maintaining his innocence. In 2011, he's going to apply for parole for the 7th time and is denied once more. The major difference here is that for the first time, he is fully admitted to his crimes.
Oh, he did.
Oh. So, guys, he did do it.
He did do
It's
it.
40 years later.
Or maybe he's just trying to work the system.
You know what?
And
Yeah.
just wants to go home.
He's showing the remorse. I did it. I'm sorry.
Play the game.
Who knows?
He didn't do it.
Paul is on Juan Corona's side. Corona previously made incriminating statements to a prison psychologist, but had never before acknowledged his guilt during a parole hearing. This is the first time that I'm aware of that he's made an admission to the full board, was a quote by one of the board members. He said it was that they were trespassing and they were winos. Corona, who was 77 at the time, has been diagnosed with dementia and mental illness. This is in 2011. No family members of the victims attended any of the hearings. Prosecutors said, because a lot of times in these hearings, family members will show up like, don't
Yeah.
fucking let him out. Are you crazy? But this isn't, it's 40 years later. It's a
Yeah.
long time. Prosecutors said that Corona targeted victims who had few relatives and likely wouldn't be missed. Quote, we have had no contact with survivors for 2 decades now. District Attorney Carl Adams said before the hearing. The people who he killed were farm laborers who were itinerant. Most of them didn't have relatives who could be contacted back in the 70s at the time of trial. So, like, a lot of these people didn't even know that this person that they knew died.
Their loved one was gone, murdered.
Not even all 25 of the bodies were identified. Yeah. So 4 of the bodies have never, 4 of the bodies have never been identified. The bodies of 14 of Corona's victims were never claimed by family members, even though they were identified, and were discovered in 1971. Question number the last. You can stab at it for a,
1,001 points.
well, it could be a tie. It would be a tie, and we go to whatever Greg chooses as a tiebreaker.
I do terrible at those.
So, question number 14. In what year did Juan Corona die? You could stab.
What was the last year he went up for parole?
Ooh,
I
gotta
know
be
that.
paying attention
I know that.
I know that.
I do. He said it.
Gotta be
I just know
paying
he was
attention
77.
sometime. You're gonna stab too? There are multiple choice.
Nope, I'm going to stab.
Okay. Shy says 2015. Paul said he never died. Paul stabbed at never died too. Paul's listened to the show and knows that that's an option most times. So
Think about that.
here are the multiple choice options.
Ooh, here's where we find out if we're really wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Did he
or
die
possibly
in
wrong.
2012, 2014, 2016, or is he still alive?
I have a chance.
So if Paul gets this, we're going to head to a tie, and Shy just had to stab. You're so proud. So proud. in the
I was
last
just
one.
doing what Paul did.
I'll never do that. That's how you lose.
Follow the leader.
We are heading to a tie.
Yeah.
Oh, that was loud. Sorry.
It's loud. Yes.
Yeah, it's okay.
You guys, it's always never.
It's always never.
I think in every time I've been on this show, there's always a choice for never, and you always pick never.
Son of a gun.
I thought the fact that he's 77 with dementia
That's
and
what I was
schizophrenia
Power
and
through.
power
Whether it was
through.
2009 or 2011.
It was 2011.
So In 2016, Juan Corona applies for parole one more time. He is denied once more. He is now 82 years old. He is not eligible for a hearing for 5 more years and will continue to serve his life sentence at Corcoran State Prison, according to Louis Patino, a spokesperson for the State Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. So, that's the Juan Corona story, but we're not done here,
No.
motherfuckers.
Come on, Greg.
Greg, is it artistic? Do I need to get them pieces of paper with which to draw or write?
A note card will do fine.
Okay, new note cards. You got the blank card in the backs of these ones. You've got a couple colors at your disposal over there. They've got a fucking tie here. Tell them what they need to do to break it.
I just want to see. You guys remember Juan Corona's brother?
Natividad.
Yeah, that's the one.
Natividad.
And he had a cafe. And I just want to know what was on the menu at his cafe. Just make me the menu from his cafe.
The menu at Natividad's Cafe.
You might have to read Greg mine.
I'm going to read them both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we can't see.
We can't read our own or else you would know.
We had the most literal interpretation of your answer, of
Excellent.
your question. So, on one menu, you'll find just 3 items, specialty restaurant. You have the chili relleno, the chorizo and eggs, and the lengua. At the other one, you can get ranchos huevos,
That's what I was trying to
pancakes, burger, chicken, taco, burrito, rice, beans, and tequila.
And tequila. That would explain the whoop ass in the bathroom. So
I want to
tequila
add
wins
chips
it.
and salsa to mine.
Tequila wins it.
Paul wins!
Shy handed a victory today.
The tequila explains the guy getting assaulted in the bathroom.
Right?
Does. It's not the chorizo and egg.
Chips and salsa. How did we not get chips and salsa? In every Mexican restaurant ever
Yeah,
has
that's
chips
the
and
first
salsa.
thing.
I would just like to point out that I never said it was a Mexican
They're
restaurant.
from Mexico.
That's racist on my part. I'm
Hey,
sorry.
I put a burger and chicken in my menu.
Not me.
You put the
sorry.
things that's on every Mexican restaurant for the white people that accidentally walk in.
I know my audience.
Oh man.
All right. Well, congratulations, Paul.
Thank you.
On
Thanks,
your
Paul. Good-
is that your first
good
victory?
job.
No,
Okay.
I beat Curtis once.
Okay. Cool.
That felt good.
I need
too.
to go against Cuddy.
Yeah, you'll beat
Oh,
him.
you need
I
someone to
do.
beat.
I beat Matt. No, I didn't. I lost to Matt. I won to Kim.
There you go. Well, congratulations, Paul, on your victory.
Congratulations.
Shy, that'll teach you to stab on the last question with
Yeah,
the lead.
it will.
Suck
balls.
Sucks balls, says Mama Shy. Hey, is there anything you guys want to say or throw out there before we wrap
Happy
up here for the night?
holidays. Merry Christmas.
This episode will be airing in January.
Oh, Happy New Year.
I'd like to say maybe start a poll. 2 of the episodes I may or may not have had some vodka, and the other 2 I did not. I
you
did
like
win
'em
the
drunk
2 that
or
I did
sober?
not. And so I don't know what's more important here, wins or sobriety or non-sobriety. Maybe just make an Insta poll.
You got to be the answer to that. So an Insta poll. You want us to do that for you?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I mean,
I'll vote on that.
your followers don't follow me.
So everybody go follow Paul. You see him. He comments on most things.
Most
So,
things. I'm there.
Anything, Shy? Nothing.
She's sad.
Her sad.
Just
I would like to add that this has been the most pleasant of all of my experiences here.
Mama
And
Shy
I-
brings out the best in people.
I feel like I walked away a better person.
There you go.
I am so glad. I'm a better person for you being here with me. Thank
Can I
you.
take her home? She's just adorable.
Ella Greg, is there anything you'd like to add to the end of this?
Love you, Greg.
Love you too. No, I'm good. I don't.
Ella Greg on all social media.
He doesn't like all this fuzzy stuff.
Holler back for your dollar back.
Emotions make me uncomfortable.
All right. Well, that's the story of Juan Corona. Congratulations, Paul. Thank you for coming, Shy. Thank you for being here, Hella Greg, of course. And thank you, everybody, for listening to episode 71 of the Serial Chillers podcast. That was episode 71. Thank you guys for hanging in there with us. We learned two things tonight. One is that the Juan Corona case is shrouded in a little bit of mystery and doubt. It may have been him. Some think it was his brother. Who knows? His brother's dead. He's locked away. Let's keep everything the very same. The second thing we learned tonight was that if you are ahead going into the last question, you just take the multiple choice options. Mama Chey lost a close one tonight. She knew what she was doing. And Paul was the victor. Well, however you want to do that, guys. Who cares? Nobody wins anything. Reach out to the show if you guys want. If you guys got ideas, I love that you guys are always throwing them out there. Greg and I have this stockpile of ideas, and we add them all. We may not always be able to get to them right away, but we do appreciate you guys giving us the ideas. They're really huge. So obviously continue reaching out to us. You can do it in a lot of ways. You know how. Facebook is Serial Chillers Podcast. The Facebook group is at Serial Chillers Podcast. The Instagram is at Serial Chillers Podcast. The Twitter is at Chillers Podcast. The email address is serialchillerspodcast@gmail.com. You can call or text the show 1-805-666-2513. That's not just during recordings. You can just call or text that anytime. We'll answer sometimes. serialchillerspodcast.threadless.com for all your merchandise needs. And please rate and review us on everything. We appreciate that very much. And if you'd like to give to the show, as many have so far, and we do appreciate that, patreon.com/serialchillerspodcast. So we hope you guys had a merry motherfucking Christmas. Super Simpsons show is going to be right around the corner in early February, so look out for that. And SUPRnetwork is going to continue to grow. We appreciate you guys very much. Thank you for listening. Remember, don't talk to strangers.
This has been another presentation from SUPRnetwork.